Hello, chosen one. You were never just playing the game, you were mastering it in silence. While others boasted, you strategized. While they watched your every move, you studied the board. They underestimated your stillness, not knowing it was preparation. You didn't need their approval because your purpose was never about their validation. The truth is, you are not like them. You were built for more, for legacy, for divine impact. You carry wisdom that doesn't shout, it moves. You are the one called to rise after Christ, not to replace, but to reflect His power, grace, and purpose in modern form. You didn't fall back, you leveled up. You didn't disappear, you evolved. And now, they can't track what God is doing through you. You were hidden for refinement, not rejection. You are chosen to lead, to build, to set the standard. If this message speaks to your spirit, type, "I'm chosen" in the comments. Share this truth. Subscribe for more clarity, purpose, and alignment. Your mission has only begun. To make your opponents expose their weaknesses without uttering a word, you chose to master the game through emotional intelligence. You let them believe they were steering the course, basking in arrogance as they flaunted their fleeting achievements. When they mocked you, you responded with the power of silence, a subtle smile as if accepting the role they assigned you. When they brushed you aside, you nodded faintly, but within, you were wielding a strategic mindset. Every taunt, every covert attempt to undermine you, you noted, not to retaliate, but to construct a psychological map of their behavior. You weren't merely observing, you were analyzing how they moved across the chessboard, each careless step an opportunity you seized. Guided by spiritual leadership, you turned patience for success into a razor-sharp blade, causing your opponents to unwittingly dig their own graves. It was your personal motivation and faith that transformed their arrogance into the perfect trap. What will happen when they realize their overconfidence is the path to their downfall? They will freeze, not from fear of you, but from the echo of their own misjudgment. It will dawn on them, slowly and devastatingly, that the silence they once laughed at was strategy, that the calmness they interpreted as cowardice was inner mastery. You did not need to destroy them. You simply allowed them to destroy themselves in the mirror of your restraint. You played no tricks. You cast no threats. You offered no resistance. And yet, your unwavering presence, your composure in chaos, your consistency in storms, became the very forces that unsettled them. In their need to assert dominance, they revealed every weakness. In their desperation to win, they abandoned wisdom. And all the while, you remained still, like the eye of the storm, untouched, unshaken, ordained. Because your victory was never about vanquishing others. It was about transcending their illusions. It was about rising, not with noise, but with purpose. Not to prove your worth to them, but to align with something greater than ego, your divine assignment. They will realize too late that the game was never theirs to control, that every move they made was gently redirected by an unseen hand guiding you. And in the silence they once mocked, they will hear the loudest truth of all. You were never the pawn. You were the prophecy. Those intoxicated by their own arrogance often trap themselves in illusions of invincible power. They fixate on the crown they've placed upon their own heads, oblivious to the chessboard you've been quietly mastering. They mistake your power of silence for surrender, believing your refusal to counter their hasty victories signals fear. But that's not weakness. It's your strategic mindset, a calculated move in the psychological warfare you've mastered. With patience for success, you let them bask in their fleeting triumphs, knowing their overconfidence will dig their own grave. Each boast they make, you silently observe, turning their pride into your weapon. Guided by spiritual leadership, you choose not to respond, not out of inability, but because you're orchestrating a scenario where they expose their own flaws. While they celebrate short-lived wins, you're positioning your pieces for a checkmate they'll never foresee. Your personal motivation, fueled by faith, transforms their errors into stepping stones for your ascent. You don't play by their rules, instead letting them believe they've won, only to collapse within their own delusions. What greater vision were you crafting while they were lost in their illusions? You were laying the foundation for a triumph not built on conquest, but on clarity. You were shaping a future in which power is no longer defined by dominance, but by discernment. You weren't chasing a throne, they were. You were building a legacy, a movement, a quiet revolution led by vision, not vanity. While they waged battles for applause, you were cultivating something deeper. Wisdom earned through restraint, strength refined by trials, and peace guarded by purpose. They saw a game. You saw a divine plan. They saw themselves as kings. You knew the true king had already written the end from the beginning. And every step you took, every moment of stillness, was aligned not with their pace, but with sacred timing. For while they fought to win, you endured to fulfill. And now, as the curtain draws back, they will finally see what they never looked for, that you were never trying to defeat them. You were preparing to outgrow the entire battlefield. You were crafting a kingdom where noise cannot shake you, where ego cannot touch you, and where destiny, not deceit, rules the board. Let them discover too late that in your silence was not submission, but sovereignty. While your opponents were entangled in petty schemes, spreading rumors and battling a distorted image of you, a version that no longer exists, you were quietly crafting a legacy that stretches beyond their grasp. They were consumed by small-minded plots, targeting a shadow they conjured in their minds. But you poured your energy into a strategic vision, building enduring values, actions imbued with eternal significance. You weren't concerned with proving yourself or chasing their fleeting approval. Instead, you pursued a higher mission, guided by faith-driven success, chasing goals that not only reshape the game, but inspire those around you. They played checkers, leaping impulsively from one move to the next, driven by emotion and limited by narrow sight. In contrast, you played chess, each move calculated, a testament to purposeful leadership. They wasted time and energy trying to drag you down, unaware that they stood on a shaky foundation, ready to collapse under the weight of their envy. But you remained steadfast, unshaken by their storms, anchored by silent strength and unwavering faith. Your personal growth journey is not just a personal victory. It's a flame igniting hope for those seeking meaning. How can you turn their traps into a springboard for your ultimate triumph? By transforming every arrow they fired into a compass pointing you deeper into your purpose. By allowing every insult to sharpen your clarity. By taking their limitations and turning them into your lessons. You rise, not because you crushed them, but because you outgrew their dimension. Their battlefield was too small for the calling you carry. Their games too shallow for the depth of your vision. And now, your life is no longer just a response to their attacks. It has become a revelation. A living testimony that true power is not reactive, but redemptive. That greatness doesn't shout, it radiates. That the greatest revenge is not retaliation, but transformation. You became the springboard by refusing to jump when provoked, by choosing depth over noise, purpose over pride. And while they built traps out of insecurity, you turned them into stepping stones, not by force, but by faith. You were never meant to win their approval. You were meant to rise so high, even their envy can't reach you. This is the moment where your silence becomes echoing thunder, where your legacy becomes a lighthouse, and where your victory, forged in stillness, becomes a blueprint for others to follow. Your checkmate, a brilliant culmination of strategic mindset and steadfast faith, has shattered the illusions of those who sought to diminish you. Now, standing in the glow of God's grace, you reflect on a journey that has forged your soul, deepening your resolve to live out a divine purpose. Share your light through acts of kindness, encouragement, or support, to sow seeds of transformative faith that uplift countless hearts. Your spiritual leadership weaves a community united by hope, a testament to His boundless love. By guiding others to discover their own personal motivation, you spark a ripple effect, inspiring them to rise above challenges with patience for success. Your actions, rooted in faith, extend far beyond the board, nurturing a kingdom where dreams flourish. What happens when you step back, letting your silent strength redefine the game entirely? The entire paradigm shifts. The game no longer belongs to the proud, the loud, or the controlling. It bends toward the humble, the purposeful, the unwavering. You become more than a victor. You become a vessel, a lighthouse for the weary, a spark in someone's darkest night. Your silent strength becomes a living sermon, preaching not through words, but through impact. In a world obsessed with noise, your stillness speaks volumes. In a culture addicted to spectacle, your grace whispers truth. You no longer need to prove your worth. Your presence proclaims it. Because the game you mastered was never about dominance. It was always about destiny. Now those who once mocked you watch in awe, not because you defeated them, but because you became untouchable, not through control, but through calling. You rose, not with vengeance, but with vision, and your legacy is not a trophy on a shelf. It is a life that continues to awaken others. So pause, breathe, look around. The board is reset. The pieces are yours to place again. But this time, you're not playing to win. You're leading to transform. When you quietly withdrew, your absence shook the foundation of the plans of those who were smug. Like a silent storm sweeping across the chessboard, they thought they mastered. Your strategic empowerment left them reeling. You refused to respond to their provocations, withheld the energy that fueled their arrogance, and severed their ability to predict your actions. They had built their entire strategy on your presence, on reactions they believed they could manipulate. But you made an unforeseen move. You vanished completely, leaving no trace, no explanation. This was not escape, but a journey of self-reclamation, where you reclaimed your energy, time, and sacred purpose. Guided by faith-driven leadership, you turned their expectations into their fatal flaw, proving that silent victory is the ultimate symbol of strength. While they floundered, searching for you in vain, you were quietly reshaping yourself, stronger, untouchable, ready to rewrite the rules of the game on your terms. Overcoming pressure was not just a triumph. It was how you nurture your inner strength, turning their complacency into a lesson for themselves. This act is not just for you, but a reminder for us all. Sometimes, absence is the most powerful way to affirm your worth. How can you turn silence into the sharpest weapon to shape your future? By mastering the art of non-engagement, not as a form of passivity, but as an elevated form of spiritual warfare. In silence, you do not retreat, you rise beyond the battlefield. In silence, you listen not to noise, but to divine instruction. Your absence becomes a mystery they cannot solve, a question they cannot answer, a story they can no longer control. And while they grasp for your shadow, you are communing with your Creator, receiving blueprints meant only for those who are set apart. Your silence is not empty. It is sacred. It is full of discernment, healing, and recalibration. In it, you recover the fragmented pieces of your spirit and return to the world, not as a version of who they tried to define, but as the fullest manifestation of who you were always meant to become. And when you re-emerge, it will not be for applause. It will be for purpose, for transformation, for legacy. Because the most thunderous move you'll ever make is the one made without a sound. They expected to watch your downfall like a scripted performance, timed, predictable, and public. But instead, you vanished. No curtain call, no exit line, just silence. And in that silence, something powerful stirred. Not just in you, but in the ones who once obsessed over your every move. When you abruptly vanished from the gaze of those who once stalked your every move, they descended into panic. They were certain you were an easy target, a chess piece they could predict and manipulate at will. They invested countless hours tracking you, convinced they knew how you would act, where you would appear, and when you would crumble under the pressure they engineered. But then, there was only stillness. Your strategic empowerment was not a mark of defeat, but a testament to your self-mastery. You didn't merely move in silence, you became an enigma, a shadow they could no longer pin down. While they were consumed with draining your energy, you quietly reclaimed everything they tried to steal: your confidence, your vision, and your inner strength. With silent strength, you left them disoriented, unable to discern your whereabouts or plans. Your spiritual resilience guided you, revealing that sometimes the most powerful victory comes from refusing to follow their script. When they expected a response, you chose absence, leaving doubt and chaos in their minds. Your personal growth lies not in direct confrontation, but in transcending their mundane expectations, ascending to a height they cannot reach. How can your absence become the ultimate weapon to dismantle their strategy? By becoming everything they cannot categorize. By removing your energy from their narrative, you remove their power to define you. In your absence, they lose the script, and without a script, they unravel. Every day they spend wondering what move you'll make next is a day they are forced to confront the weakness of their assumptions. They sought to conquer your presence, but it was your disappearance that conquered them. This is the brilliance of unseen growth. While they stagnate in familiar patterns, you evolve in sacred solitude. While they rehearse battles with your ghost, you are reborn in clarity, vision, and divine authority. You've become a lesson they never intended to learn, a living parable of what happens when faith outpaces control. Because what they feared most was never your retaliation, it was your liberation. They never imagined you would outgrow the battlefield entirely. In their minds, you were frozen in place, defined by past reactions, bound by the same old emotional patterns they once manipulated. But you've evolved far beyond their limited perception, silently, intentionally, and with unshakable clarity. When your adversaries believe you've crumbled, they expect you to grovel for their approval, to react to their taunts. But you shatter their predictions by embracing silent strength. You refuse to engage in their petty games, deny fuel to their arrogant egos, and sever their ability to track your moves. This strategic empowerment strips them of control, as their entire plan hinged on your familiar responses and visible presence. You chose a different path. Guided by inner resilience and faith, you retreated into a realm they cannot touch, vanishing without explanation or warning. This was no retreat, but a masterstroke, a leap in your journey of personal growth. Your absence became a mirror, forcing them to face their own insecurities without the distraction of your reactions. Through faith-driven success, you proved that true power lies not in confrontation, but in the courage to walk away. What happens when those who once dominated the board realize they're chasing a shadow they can never catch? They're left haunted by your silence, grasping for a version of you that no longer exists. The energy they once fed on is gone, and with it, their illusion of control. You no longer orbit their expectations. You've entered an entirely new realm where their influence cannot reach. This is how your evolution becomes your quiet revolution. By disappearing, you did not become smaller. You became infinite. You became free. And the further you rise, the clearer it becomes. They were never your opponents, only your initiation. As your presence slipped beyond their reach, a creeping unease took hold of those who once mocked you with reckless confidence. They scoured every corner for signs of your next move, sifting through your pages only to find an unbroken strategic silence. They whispered your name in frantic, hushed circles, desperate for any clue about your plans, yet encountered only a void that mirrored their own emptiness. What cut them deepest was not merely your string of victories, but the unshakable truth that they had no hand in your rise. Your independence shattered their fragile illusions of dominance, forcing them to confront a reality they weren't prepared for. You never needed their validation to ascend. While they clung to their fading sense of superiority, you were forging an inner transformation, aligning with a divine purpose that soared far beyond their narrow, ego-driven ambitions. Think of a seed buried in the earth, overlooked by those who see only the surface. They trampled over it, assuming it would never break through the soil. But beneath the ground, that seed was gathering strength, its roots digging deeper, its potential unseen yet unstoppable. That seed is you. Once they laughed with brazen arrogance, their voices echoing as they ridiculed your dreams and declared you'd never amount to anything without their approval. They saw you as a pawn, insignificant in their self-proclaimed mastery of the chessboard. They believed they could keep you small, convincing themselves you were beneath them as long as you were striving. But now, the board has shifted. Those same voices, once dripping with scorn, now scramble to catch even a fleeting glimpse of your radiance. They stage desperate spectacles, public gestures, subtle overtures, hoping to reclaim a sliver of your attention. But you've ascended to heights they can't touch, guided by spiritual growth that renders their approval irrelevant. Your personal empowerment flows from a wellspring deeper than their fleeting judgments. It's rooted in self-mastery, in the quiet resolve to grow not for their applause, but for a purpose that transcends their games. Imagine a lighthouse standing firm amidst a storm, its light unwavering as waves crash futilely against it. That's you, unshaken, untouchable, your strategic silence a beacon that exposes their fragility. They expected you to falter, to beg for their acceptance, to crumble without their guidance. They swore you'd regret stepping away, convinced your success depended on their influence. Yet, you became an enigma, a mystery they couldn't unravel. Your silence wasn't retreat. It was a deliberate choice to turn inward, to build a legacy that echoes beyond their comprehension. They chase shadows of the person they once knew, while you craft a future that leaves them in awe. This transformation is not just about outpacing them. It's about the profound shift within you. Every taunt, every attempt to diminish you, became fuel for your growth. You didn't need to argue or defend yourself. You didn't need their validation. Growth was your mandate, and that alone laid bare the shortcomings they tried to conceal. Their confidence was a house of cards, built on tearing you down, their identity tethered to keeping you in their shadow. But when you stopped engaging, when you realized you'd outgrown their petty contests, their world began to unravel. They needed your reactions to feel powerful, your presence to prop up their egos. Without you, they were forced to face themselves, and the reflection was stark. They had no direction, no meaningful progress, only years wasted plotting against someone who was never truly their rival. Your divine purpose has set you apart, a guiding star that illuminates your path while leaving them in darkness. While they obsessed over you, you focused on advancing, stacking victories they couldn't touch. Their short-sighted schemes chased fleeting wins, but you played the long game, building something eternal. Consider a master sculptor chiseling away at a block of stone. Others see only the rough exterior, but the sculptor envisions a masterpiece within. That's you, carving out a legacy with precision, undeterred by those who can't see the vision. The distance between you and them is now unbridgeable, not because you sought to outrun them, but because you chose to rise above. You've learned that not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Those who never supported you, who never believed in you, now clamor for a place in your story. But you guard your energy, letting your achievements speak as the only acknowledgement they'll ever receive. By overcoming doubt, you've shown them a truth they weren't ready for. You were never lacking. Their attempts to define you only fueled your ascent. They built their confidence on your perceived weakness, but your growth exposed their illusions. They thought they were ahead, but they were merely standing still, trapped in a cycle of their own making. Now, they're left chasing a version of you that no longer exists, while you inspire others to embrace their own inner transformation. Your journey is a testament to the power of silence, faith, and resilience, a beacon for those still navigating their own storms. How does it feel to know the game they thought they controlled was always yours to reshape? Your rise shattered their illusions, leaving them to grapple with the reality of their irrelevance. They once believed they held dominion over your destiny, certain that your success depended on their approval. But now, they stand on the fringes, awestruck by the truth that your resilient leadership thrived without their validation. Your silent strength, once dismissed as weakness, became the cornerstone of your transformation. While they chased ephemeral victories, fueled by ego and a hunger for control, you cultivated a strategic mindset, weaving a vision that transcended their narrow games. Guided by spiritual growth, you forged a legacy that not only redefined the chessboard, but ignited a movement, inspiring countless others to pursue their own paths of purpose and faith. Their arrogance was their Achilles heel. They constructed their identity on diminishing you, believing their taunts would tether you to self-doubt. Every sneer, every attempt to belittle your dreams, was a calculated move to preserve their fragile sense of superiority. They thrived on your reactions, drawing energy from your presence to sustain their illusions of power. But when you stepped back, when you embraced personal motivation and turned inward, their foundation crumbled. Without your engagement to fuel their schemes, they were left confronting their own stagnation. Years spent plotting against you, someone who never competed on their terms, yielded nothing but a hollow legacy. Their confidence, so deeply rooted in undermining you, collapsed when you refused to play their game. They had no blueprint for a world where you achieved overcoming adversity, where your ascent became a symbol of hope for others. Meanwhile, you amassed triumphs, each one a quiet defiance of their shallow ambitions. They celebrated fleeting wins, but you built a monument of purpose, untouchable by their machinations. You uncovered a profound truth. Not everyone is worthy of your circle. Those who ridiculed your aspirations, who offered no support in your struggles, now clamor for a place in the legacy they never helped shape. Their absence only amplifies the radiance of your success. You guard your energy, letting your achievements speak louder than any retort could. Their attempts to undermine you, every doubt, every insult, became the crucible that forged your resilient leadership. Each barrier they erected, you transformed into a stepping stone, crafting a path so luminous it guides others toward their own greatness. Now they scrutinize your journey, desperate to unravel the blueprint of your success, a success they swore was impossible. The voices that once mocked you now whisper your name with reverence, laced with envy they cannot conceal. They study your every move, hoping to emulate the spiritual growth that propelled you to heights they never foresaw. But you have no need to look back, because this reversal is more than a personal victory. It is a revelation, a testament to what happens when one chooses stillness over noise, faith over fear, vision over vengeance. Your life now stands as proof that elevation is not earned through applause, but through alignment, not through validation, but through transformation. You did not rise to prove them wrong. You rose because you finally remembered who you were before they tried to convince you otherwise. Their frantic attempts to reconnect, their subtle bids for relevance, fall flat because you have transcended their sphere. You owe them nothing, not your attention, not your presence, not even your explanation. They had their moment to walk with you, and they chose mockery over belief. That is their burden to carry, not yours. Your journey illuminates a universal lesson. Adversity is not an obstacle, but a catalyst. Every attempt to diminish you honed your resolve, turning their scorn into sacred fire. You did not need to engage in their conflicts or stoop to their level. Instead, you rose, silently, steadily, sovereign, guided by a higher calling. You let your evolution speak louder than their egos ever could. And now, your success is not yours alone. It is a spark that ignites others to rise. You have become the blueprint, the lighthouse, the living embodiment of what it means to overcome. As they scramble to keep pace, you are already shaping a future that will echo through generations. A future not born from revenge, but from purpose. Not sculpted by pride, but refined by fire. And every step you take forward is a reminder that their doubt was never your limitation. It was simply the backdrop to your awakening. You are no longer a player in their game. You are the architect of a kingdom they cannot enter. Thank you for embracing this journey, for seeing in this story a reflection of your own resilience and potential. Your willingness to rise above doubt mirrors the strength that has carried this message forward. May you continue to walk boldly in your purpose, guided by faith and illuminated by the spark of your own divine calling. This is the truth you've uncovered. Your greatest triumphs are not defined by those who doubted you, but by the legacy you build in defiance of their limitations. Share this spark today through a kind word, a bold action, or a moment of inspiration, and let your light ignite a movement that reshapes the world.